Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Jill Spirits of God. I'm here to give you a song on tonight. Now we not doing Bible study tonight. We'll be back with it probably tomorrow or either Saturday. Um, this song gonna come from Psalms 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Who shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and foe who will stumble and fall. The armor besieges me, my heart will not fear. The war break out against me, even then will I be confident. One thing I ask from the Lord, this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. But in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his tabernacle and set me high upon a rock. And then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surround me. At his tabernacle I will sacrifice with shout of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord, and hear my voice when I call, Lord. Be merciful to me and answer me. For my heart said of you, seek his face, and your face, Lord, I will seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. Do not reject me or forsake me. God, my Savior, though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Teach me your way, Lord, and lead me in a straight path because of my oppressor. Do not turn me over to the desire of my enemies, but false witnesses are raised up against me and spread malicious accusation. I remain confident of this, that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And this the key point right here. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. That's the main key right there. The topic is going to be wait for the Lord. And David wrote this song. And David was fearless. Even though he was running for Saul, he was running for Saul because he didn't want to hurt Saul. Because you remember, David could take an animal and break it with his bare hands. You remember, David had beat down that giant. So David can beat Saul. So David was running from Saul to keep from hurting Saul. You know, and David had him multiple times. David could have killed him, but he refused to kill Saul. Because see, David can kill somebody with his bare hands. And you remember David was anointed since he was a boy. So he'd been waiting on God for a long time. But God came through. God promised that he was going to be anointed. He was going to be the king over the Israel. He had to wait a long time, but it did came. That's why he had wrote this song, Wait for the Lord. And that's all I've been doing is waiting on the Lord. You know, um, we all know that David was running from Saul. He had enemies, and he also was waiting. He was waiting to be king. He was anointed since he was a boy. But it was a long time coming. But he was king over Israel. It was a long time coming, but he did made it to be king over Israel. So David had waited on the Lord. Even when his wife, it was against it. Because when he was celebrating, she was in the window just looking mad and booted up. She started laughing. If you read the story, she started laughing. She was wondering why he was dancing out there, celebrating. He was dancing, celebrating because it was a long time coming. He was waiting a long time because God had known him since he was a boy. And he had become to be a grown man. And he was just being king over the Israel. But God promised had came to pass. Story gonna come from Psalm 27, 1 through 14, and it's a commentary of David. Now David, who wrote this song, he had many enemies chasing after him. Now he not only he had Saul, he had other enemies that was coming against him. So at one point in time, of another. You know, he was no stranger to danger. But he also knew, that God was powerful and know and knowledge, enough to he had enough knowledge to know the plan, other might have, to know. So he know the plan that God had for him. And that what made him wait. That's what made him kept on waiting on the Lord. And see, God had a plan for David, So that's why God was already protecting him. God was gonna let nothing happen to him, because God had a plan for David's life. And David knew that. That's why he kept on waiting on the Lord. That's why he wrote this song, Wait on the Lord. 'Cause he did a lot of waiting, and he letting us know it came to pass. So to know the plans other might have to harm him, but he know that God could interfere on any time on his behalf. So many people wanted to harm him. He was not only running from Saul, but he was running from other people too, money and kids. And he had women, he had wives. He had so many wives that always was on the run. And that's why his first wife, Monica, that's why she was just so angry with him. Because he left her behind. And while he kept on running from Saul, but then he tangled along and married other women on the way. So he knew that God had plans for him. He knew that God had the best interest in David. In heart. So in this wrangling statement, he trusts and he put his faith in the hands of God. All that he go through, and that's how I am. God is good even when we mad. Even when we tired, even when we frustrated. Because a lot of time it'll feel like, he forsaken us. Just like David. But David said he knew God was right there. He knew God could intervene on his behalf when the time is right. God always intervenes on his divine time. When he feel like it's time to intervene, like he did with Job. He felt like it was time for him to intervene on Job. He let the devil did enough damage to Job, enough hurt and pain and suffering to Job. When he realized it was time for me to step in. Because sometimes when the devil just keep on beating you down like that, and when yourself and everyone else be like, okay, what is God? God don't care for her. She just constantly keep on suffering pain and suffering. What is her God? That's the first thing everyone want to say. Where are your God? But then when God show up, what happened to Job? What happened to Joseph? Joseph served 20 years in jail, wondering where is God. But what happened at the end? In his dream when he was 17 years old, God told him, you're gonna be in charge. And all kind of chaos happen. Sometimes so much chaos happen before you even stepping into the promise that God had promised you. Look at the Israelites. We doing the Bible study on that. Look at all the heartaches they gone through. Then went through generation to generation, and never into that land yet. But they will. And what I'm saying, you go through so much bumpy road to get to that smooth and easy and luxury. God said with milk, floating with milk and honey. And the Israelites keep on saying, but we are not there yet. You remember Ice Cube made that move? We're not there yet. But God's saying we're going to get there. And David saying we got to wait on the Lord. You wait on the Lord, you're going to get to that mountain. You wait on the Lord, Irma, you're going to get there. It's all about if you're there yet, but you're going to get there. So David said, so in this wrangling statement of trust, that's the main key too. We get mad, and guess what? God don't worry about us getting mad. God plan, God gonna keep on going on with his plan. Even if it's caused pain and suffering. And in that mix, or that chaos, you know, no matter how we mad. Because God's not worrying about us being mad. We still got to trust God, you know, and see what the Israelite mess up at. That second generation. If y'all following me with the Bible study, you know, they got right there. You can see their land. Got right there. Just because that group came back with a bad report, they refuse to enter that land. They reject into that land. You know, that's when things get so rough and tough. You know, everything gets so rough and tough. You know why? Because the devil see that you right there. The devil see that you right there, and the devil gonna keep on beating you down. When you close to victory, you know, all hell gonna break loose. You know, so the one key, David said, you know, he had to face his fear. You know, David escaped the pressure, you know, of fear and warfare and entreating into God's holy presence. You know, in the tabernacle. You know, he proclaimed, you know, that he will not, you know, he proclaimed that he will sing and make music to the Lord. And David prays. David writes songs. You know, he writes songs, and it's okay to dance. He was dancing, you know, and see when he gets in the mood, you know, that's why they say a lot of time your praise sometimes being that singing, your praise sometimes being that dancing. You know, David used to write songs, David used to dance, David used to sing. He used to do all that just for God. You know, he said that's how he got through a lot of time. And that's all I do is listen to my gospel. And when I sing, in the last time, you have to listen to the words. Listen to the words. A lot of time when I'm cleaning up and I'm sitting down or putting my material, anything together, I got to have that music out. You know, because it's all about the words. You know, just like David said, he praised, he sang, and he danced just for the Lord. You know, so David praised. And that's when his wife just got mad, like, why are you dancing? Why are you singing? You know, so David also remind us to wait for the Lord. You know, be strong, you know, and take heart and wait for the Lord. You know, now in my storm, I'm waiting for the Lord. You know, the Israelite complain, I complain sometimes, but what the difference is between me and the Israelite, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to turn around. I'm not going to get out the race. The Israelite got out the race. The Israelite was right there, and they reject from entering into that land. You know, and it's a difference between me and the Israelite. You know, God did everything for them. God do everything for me too. You know, that's why I don't never quit. I don't never turn around. I work hard for the Lord. You know, not for myself. You know, and see the Israelite, God provide for them. You know, but then when they get thirsty again, they forget so quickly what God had did. You know, and so David remind us, you know, that he had to wait. He had to wait on the Lord. You know, and then he said in between of him waiting, he was praising God. You know, he was singing and he was dancing. You know, so David also remind us to wait for the Lord. He said, be strong. You got to have a strong faith. You got to keep on having faith with God. You know, wait for the Lord. You know, so God, you know, will answer. You know, he will answer your prayers. And he may not come when you want him, to expect him to come. You know, but you know he always on time. He always on his time. You know, so he come when or how we expect him. You know, but we can trust. You know, that he is more faithful. You know, than we ever can imagine. More faithful than your parents. You know, more faithful through anybody, you know. So even when he's quiet, you know, when you think you don't hear him, you know, sometimes you can be praying and talking, you know, but he hear you. He hear you. Just like he heard the Israelite cried out, you know, until he finally stepped forward and rescued them with his mighty hand. You know, so if everyone leave you, you know, you got family leave you, you might have children leave you, you might have friends and all kind of people leave you. You might start out with a whole bunch of people ringing your phone, but then all of a sudden everybody just start leaving your side. You know, no more phone calls. You know, but guess what? While everybody leaving your side, you being isolated. But guess what? God is always right there. You know, he will not leave your side like everyone else will. You know, so everyone will leave your side. God will surround us with his love. Now God he been guiding me through. And he a good motivator. You know, even when you feel like, you know, just like Elijah. You know, Elijah ran away. Elijah wanted to take his life. You know, but God said, what you doing? What you doing? I got another assignment for you. See, when God not through with you yet, you know, God still got some more work for you to do. You know, he wasn't ready for Elijah then. You know, he said, I got more work for you to do. What is you talking about? I need you to go back. Now, God told him to go back. You know, what his enemies had wanted to take him out. He was going to be next door neighbor. You know, but guess what? He didn't hesitate. He went back. You know, he went back. You know, if God said go back, I mean, he going to protect you. You know, you do the will for God. All hell break loose. Because you make the devil so you know, intense. You know, David said he had a lot of enemies. You know, nothing that can happen that God will be there for us. You know, ultimately we will trust in him and find safety for our soul. You know, so waiting on God. You know, so when David, you know, it's not talking directly to God, you know, in his song, he is usually talking to himself. And that's what I do a lot of times. You know, some people might think you crazy, you know, but a lot of time you have to rehearse some stuff. You know, like some stuff, you know, I have to do, and, you know, and or whatever, you know, just be talking. Sometimes you'll be talking out loud. Okay, I got to get this, I got to get that. David said a lot of time you talk to yourself. Because a lot of time when you talk to yourself and talk in the spirit, God hears. So he did a lot of talking in the spirit. You know, so I mean, he still was communicating with God. You know, so when David, you know, was talking directly to God in his song, he usually was talking to himself. You know, speaking out affirmation of his faith. You know, so that his heart and soul, you know, so when our circumstances appear to be blind, you know, and when God answered our prayers with weight, you know, he have a reason when he answered your prayers with weight. You know, mine's been with a weight. David been with a weight. Joseph been with a weight. You know, and it's all his good prophets. You know, he'll answer you with a weight. You know, um, so prayers with a weight. And when we can't follow David and knows from his own past experience, you know, that God will bring about his own perfect will and his own perfect time. You know, and when we are feeling uncertain, you know, or impatient, like me, you know, when, you know, about God activity in our life, you know, or, you know, in our lives and all in our life, you know, of someone we love, you know, we can gain strength, you know, and if we meditate on the word, you know, of this song, I read this all the time when I'm trying to put my page together. And I glance through it. Just a study Bible. That's what all this comes, you know. It'd be good for y'all to get y'all a study Bible. You know, had a good commentary. That's what this come out of. You know, they have the feeling of the person that wrote the songs and these stories and stuff like that. They'll have their point of view on what really happened, you know, in a story. You know, so if we meditate on the word of this song, we can give thanks to God. You know, and when we place our hope in Him, you know, and have faith. Now we have to trust God. We have to have faith. You have to have strength. Sometimes my strength be fading away. Sometimes my faith be wavering. You know, but we cannot get like the Israelite and just give up and get to the point of the finish line where you can see the finish line and you just refuse to cross over. You know, so I'm not gonna refuse to cross over. I'm not even gonna turn backwards. You know, when you that close to the finish line, you constantly gonna be fighting the devil. I'm constantly fighting the devil because I can kind of see the finish line. And when your foot is also on that finish line, all hell gonna break loose. You know, David went through something at the end. You know, but guess what? He got victory. You know, because Saul had got died. Saul had got killed. You know, and so next thing you know, God put him in position. You know, so God put him in position because God told him he's gonna be in position. You know, God put Joseph in position. You know, even though he went through all that stuff, thrown in a pit, you know, was sold as a slave. Then he got lied on. Then he got in prison, you know. And while he was in prison, he still got blessed. You know, because God put that dream in Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh had no other church but to give that position to Joseph. So what they had to do, they had to go in that jailhouse, get him out of there, and put him in position. And he was in position to his last days. You know, because he had weight on the Lord. You know, and Joe too. Joe too went through so much pain and suffering. You know, he never had a conversation with God. God never put nothing in his dream like he did with Joseph. You know, so he didn't pretty much know what was going on or why he was going through what he was going through. But he still waited on God. And when he waited on God and God saw that he did not curse him, you know, did not get mad with him, then God said it was time to release him his blessing. You know, he was blessed. And guess what? All the family, well, the devil took all his family, but all his friends, but he had some of his family, cousins and stuff. Like some of his cousins and his neighbors and all that, when he was going through that pain and suffering, there was nowhere around. But see, when soon as God had blessed him, then everybody came over and had dinner. And I'm like, where everybody was at when Joe was going through all that? You know, nowhere around until he got blessed. You know, and then when Joe got blessed, he got everything back. You know, the friends came back, the cousins came back. You know, but he had weight on the Lord. You know, and that's what David is trying to let us know. A lot of time, God will answer your prayers with a weight. You know, and David, yeah, will come to be blessed at the end. You know, he was the Israelite king. You know, and so his son came along, and he done got old. He done lived a prosperous life from waiting on the Lord, and got blessed. He got in a position, and he lived a full life. Because when you do the will of God, you know, and you wait on the Lord, you will live a long and prosperous life. Joe also lived a long, prosperous life. And Joseph lived a long, prosperous life. He was in his 100s. They live a long, prosperous life. You know, his life went exactly how God said it was going to be with Joseph. in his dream. Went exactly how God said it was gonna be. So this story was, this package was about wait. Wait on the Lord. Wait on God. So I have a little news for you today too. So one was dead, you know, a suspect in custody after stabbing someone in a library. I mean, you just not safe in a library, the school, the church, So the police said that one person was killed in a stabbing, at Petwood Library, on today. So the attack unfolded inside the Petwood Library in Cancer, Avenue, just before 7 p.m. So the victim was inside the library when the attacker walked up, stabbed him in the neck, killing him, and the person is now in custody. So the officers do believe that this was a target attack. He said the attacker and the victim knew each other. So they're saying they knew each other. Saying he deliberately came up in that library to stab that person. And they also believe they was homeless, and now and they're investigating. So the people inside the library, the people inside the library are brave. They are brave. They said the people in the library interfered. And they said they took the knife from the attacker. So after watching the video, they intervened and they stopped.